My name is Hans von Essen. I'm an agronomist and senior advisor for BERAS International Foundation, which has its purpose to promote and develop the concepts ecological regenerative agriculture, diet for a green planet, and sustainable food societies. I was also part of the management group for the EU projects BERAS and BERAS implementation that formed these concepts. In the work in the kitchen and around the whole meal is immensely important because it creates the preconditions for converting the food system towards sustainability. But the key ecological work is in agriculture. A sound form of agriculture is not negative for the environment. On the contrary, it is a positive factor. But here we're talking about well-balanced ecological regenerative agriculture. Such farms are today exceptions. The signals farmers under a long time have been given are one-sided: volume and price. And the answer is given: monoculture. Fossil energy has made it possible to go very far in the monoculture direction. The price the farmer receives for agricultural products are pushed down to levels that are ecologically unsustainable. In spite of this, a movement for ecological regenerative agriculture not only survived, but has grown and become stronger. Ever more people realize that we have to make a real effort to minimize climate change, loss of biodiversity and erosion. We have to scale up environmentally friendly practices in agriculture and make it mainstream. Maybe you now wonder if there will be enough food for all when we convert to sustainable practices, and the Earth population at the same time probably will raise from today more than 7 billion to probable culmination of 10, 11 billion. It should be enough to point out that the global production of foodstuff today corresponds to 5,740 kilocalories per person a day for the whole global population. The need for a person is just 2,000 kilocalories per day. It's almost 3 times the need. We can afford the reduction of raw foodstuff production. That will be a consequence of going down from unsustainable monocultures to ecological regenerative agriculture. The reality is that we cannot afford not doing that. What are then those principles for an agriculture in harmony with nature? And what is important to know for you who are not directly involved in farming? The first principle is to give back to nature. And that means growing plants that are good for the soil. In ecological regenerative agriculture, around half of the soil area is dedicated to growing perennial plants that primarily boosts the soil. We call this ley. Clover, grass and herbs that stand more than a year and builds ever deeper roots. The plants are harvested several times, but the roots remain and the plants soon start to grow again. That means carbon fixation with photosynthesis goes on continuously. The second principle is that the farm is supplied with biologically fixated nitrogen. Leguminose plants as clover, peas and beans are of special importance since they, with the help of microorganisms in the soil, are able to take from the endless supply of nitrogen in the air to build protein. The rotation of annual and perennial crops in a balanced rotation means that annual weeds are held back when the perennial crops are grown, and the perennial weeds are held back when annual crops are grown. In this way, all weeds are held back to a level that will not cause problems or diminish the harvest. Thanks to a good balance, an organic farmer does well without herbicides. Another pest management is a similar story. The crop plants belong to different families and they have specific pests, insects, fungi, virus and other. Each species has a specific role. The ecological regenerative farm seeks a balance that is specific for the locality. Since the farm grows several different plant families and many different species, there will be a diversity of pests also. But the natural enemies of those pests will be able to be there. It is the biodiversity itself that will protect against a massive attack. Thanks to this, the organic farmer will be protected against massive attacks without using pesticides. The use of insecticides will hit not only the insect pest you want to get rid of, but it will get rid of the predator insect as well and other good insects. A fungicide will kill not only the unwanted fungi, but it will also kill the fungi that help and are important to soil health. The greater the biodiversity, the better the resilience. A particularly important balance is between the number of animals and the area of arable land, the animal density. Roughly, it should be around 0.5 to 1 animal unit per hectare. 1 animal unit corresponds to 1 dairy cow. 100 laying hens needs the same amount of fodder, roughly, during 1 year, and is also counted as 1 animal unit. We must learn in this way to think in wholes and in balance. In the first BERAS project, which was a cooperation between universities and research institutes in 8 countries around the Baltic Sea, we looked at 40 farms distributed over the whole Baltic Sea drainage basin that worked according to ecological regenerative agriculture principles. They are the red dots on the map. In the ecological regenerative scenario, the eutrophication of the Baltic Sea was diminished to half of the level of that time and still produced enough food for the 90 million inhabitants of this region. But agriculture depends on the whole society. The ecological regenerative farms we worked with were connected to consumers who had adapted their eating habits to the local conditions and the seasons, and who appreciated the high quality of products from ERA farms, from ecological regenerative farms. Out of these observations, the concept of diet for a green planet or diet for a clean Baltic was developed. Not only the consumers are important, the whole local community is. The farms need restaurants, they need food processors, they need distributors, shops and local decision makers who appreciate the high quality of food from ecological regenerative farms and understand what the farm in their turn need to thrive. When a large enough number of actors are engaged, a critical mass is reached that gives positive effects to the whole society. This is the concept of sustainable food societies. For you who work with food purchase in larger scale and are dependent on volumes and security of delivery, that will make it difficult for local and small farmers to deliver. Ecologically certified products is the best aim to start with. And you can complement that with a ban to the worst sorts of exploitation and work with the local farmers by listening to the actual local growers you have and begin in a small scale. Could be a very small scale, but begin somewhere. The fresh green products is advantageous to grow locally, and it is a road to better understanding of the conditions of farming and gardening to really start somewhere in reality. Also consider what is possible to grow in your climate zone generally. This paves the road for later, even if your local grower just now is not able to provide for you. The market will finally be created. And if you work in a smaller scale or engage yourself as a private consumer, start then using the direct channels that are popping up. Community-supported agriculture, farmers markets and similar. And if you have just a little land or a lawn, start there. Thank you very much.